to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us today. Get ready to be inspired and motivated to live a high-impact life. Now, here's Rick.
Welcome to the Point of Impact podcast. I'm Rick McDaniel, and it is great to have you join us for a new season. We have taken a break over the summer, and we're back now to start a new season, and I'm excited to be with you again. Took quite a break here of several months, and those of you that follow this podcast from the beginning know we did 60 straight episodes in a row before someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, you might want to think about doing seasons of podcasts instead of just every single week after week after week. And I took that advice, and so we started doing seasons, which is certainly more sustainable, no doubt about it. And so took a break there for the summer, had just some great times, went whitewater rafting in West Virginia. That was really fun. And went to the southern part of Italy and the Amalfi Coast, and that was incredible. That was an amazing experience on multiple levels. Got to also spend some time in Rome again, which is one of my favorite cities, and got to eat some fantastic Italian ice cream. Ciampini's, by the way, if you ever get to Rome, that's the place to go. And then in the south of Italy and Naples area, that's where pizza was invented. So, man, I tell you, pizza and ice cream, my two favorite foods. So I was living the dream on top of just all the great sights. I went to Pompeii, which was, again, it's fascinating, but the Amalfi Coast, the beauty, Capri Island and Positano's, all those places. Ravello is actually, I think, my favorite place of all. Sorrento's fantastic. Just really, really great stuff. So, did some other things, got to spend the 4th of July holiday with some family, which was also nice. So Labor Day in Italy and New England, 4th of July, that's pretty good stuff for me. And I'm looking forward to this fall, lots of stuff going on. Be traveling this weekend for speaking and be doing a lot of other things here in the next couple of months. But one of those things I'll be doing for sure is this podcast. And I just also want to say, while we had a break, there was an ebook sale for my book, This is Living, Daily Inspiration to Live Your Faiths. I hope you got a chance to take advantage of that. And if you didn't, if you go to rickmcdaniel.com and just get on the weekly devotion, you'll get notified about these sorts of things, because lots of people took advantage of that sale. It was a big one. So, and again, also during this time, I came out with some more Bible reading plans on the Bible app, the biggest Bible app in the world, YouVersion, and came out with actually, probably 2 since our last one, maybe, but Best Life, that is 5 days of inspiration to live your best life, man. What a great one. These are all free, by the way. And then Believe, did a little play with the Ted Lasso. If you know the Ted Lasso show, and his Believe banner up in the locker room, kind of did a play on that. So Believe, and 5 days of inspiration to build your faith. So lots of great stuff. You can get those on the Bible app, continue to be on the Pray app as well. In fact, was on the Sunday service just a couple of weeks ago with a message that went out all over 1 million plus people. So hopefully you got to take advantage of some of those. If you haven't, look for me, Daily Devotions with Rick McDaniel on Pray. 4 different reading plans that you can find on YouVersion, Believe, Best Life, Come Back to Setback, and based on my book, you can also get This is Living. So lots of opportunities to take advantage. And wow, I'm just going on and on about stuff because I haven't talked to you in so long. New messages up on my YouTube channel. So if you go to my Rick McDaniel YouTube channel, there's new messages including some very inspirational ones like dream and positive attitude, stuff that could really help you and inspire you. So all kinds of resources that you can take advantage of. Obviously, all of those are free, but one that isn't is my book, which I would love for you to get a hold of. Beautiful hardcover book. This is Living. Get on Amazon. Of course, you can get the e-version of it as well, whichever you prefer. And I have other books out as well that I think are great, including one that I'll be basing these next series of podcasts on, having to do with comebacks. And so I hope you'll go on Amazon and find those books, take advantage of all the stuff that is available. rickmcdaniel.com, obviously the best place to go in terms of a one-stop shop to find all the various things that I'm doing and the resources that you can take advantage of. All right, well, what to talk about? What do we start a new season with? And if you remember, and I know it was a few months ago, but I left the last season saying we were going to do something that is so surprising that in 120 something podcast episodes, we've never talked about setbacks and comebacks. And that is, a big thing for me. I'm a comeback guy. I guess you could say a comeback expert. When Tiger Woods won the Masters, I was the guy that wrote the article on that. When the Patriots beat the Falcons in the greatest Super Bowl comeback, I was the guy who did that as well. And I've been interviewed on ESPN and numerous radio stations, Fox News, and on comebacks and setbacks. It's my thing. I'm into it, been studying it and writing about it for years. And yet weirdly, it just occurred to me earlier this year that in all of these podcast episodes in which I have talked about all kinds of subjects that are near and dear to my heart, like success and happiness, I've done takeouts from other books that I've done, like my You Got Style book and the different styles. In fact, leadership styles is either number one or number two of the most popular episodes of any that I've ever done. And that's based on my book, You Got Style. So I've certainly talked about a lot of different things that influence, which is another huge thing for me. Stress, which again, those are some of the most popular episodes that have ever been done. And on episode 100, by the way, I went through some of those popular episodes. So if you want to go back and listen to that, you can hear about the 10 most popular episodes of the first 100. But in all of those, again, kind of weirdly, strangely, I never did anything on setbacks and comebacks, which is really weird. So we're going to correct that today, and moving forward here, we're going to devote some time to talking about setbacks and comebacks. Turn your setbacks into comebacks. Comeback, overcoming the setbacks in your life. These are things that I've written about. And again, I've chronicled many of the great comebacks that have taken place in the last, say, 5 or 10 years. Many of them in sports, though not exclusively. Those of you that listened to an episode recently that I did before the break on Apple and talking about their successes and failures. I mean, you got to go to the point where there was a point there where, Apple was on the verge of bankruptcy, 1997. Steve Jobs had left the company. They were, it's hard to believe, this is one of the most absolute successful gold standard companies in the world. And it wasn't all that long ago, 25 or so years ago, and they were about to go under. And they brought Steve Jobs back, and he led them from setback to comeback. And that's the story. That's the story that is repeated over and over and over and over again, are how we can move from setbacks to comebacks. In fact, in my book, Turn Your Setbacks into Comebacks, I chronicle the 10 greatest comebacks of all time. And this has been reprinted in the Huffington Post, and then it was on a site which is specifically devoted to top comebacks. And I talk about somebody like Robert Downey Jr. in terms of his personal life and the comeback. Serena Williams, you may not know that story. It's an incredible story of some of the things she went through physically. And Ulysses Grant, our former president and general in the United States Army, Kurt Warner is another one who has an amazing story. Of course, there's a movie out about him now, so there's lots there. And even things like Germany and Japan coming back from World War II, and just they have two of the top 5 economies in the world now. And yet they were completely devastated and virtually obliterated. And that wasn't that long ago. It's amazing. Like 75 years ago, they were nowhere. And look what they've done. And then I get into things like the comeback of the Buffalo Bills in the 1993 playoffs, which is still the greatest. It's even greater than the Super Bowl comeback of the Patriots. Still the greatest comeback in playoff history in the most popular sport in America, professional football, which is back, by the way. And that certainly makes a guy like me happy. My wife is, again, referring to herself as a football widow. And then the 2004, when the Red Sox were down 0-3 to the Yankees, our most hated rival. I'm a New Englander, so I can say our. And then came back and won 4 straight. Never been done before, ever in history, ever. And against the most hated rival. Incredible. Abraham Lincoln's life story. I mean, there's just amazing comebacks that happen all the time. And Tiger Woods, I mean, it's just incredible. The guy's had multiple comebacks. It wasn't just like winning the Masters, the first comeback after all of his problems with his knee and his personal life, and then he comes back and wins 5 tournaments and is the PGA Player of the Year. I mean, that's comeback number 1. Then we have another comeback that's just remarkable when he comes back from and ends up winning the Masters. Is just amazing. And now here he is again in another comeback after almost losing his life. So it just goes on and on and on. And even people like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, who many of us may forget, both were comeback player of the year in the NFL. Brady injured his knee early in his career, came back, and Peyton Manning had such terrible neck problems. It looked like he was going to be out of football, and left the Colts and went to the Broncos, won a Super Bowl. So they're everywhere. And really, the first thing I would want to just say to you is just to put that out there and say, listen, comebacks are possible. We're going to talk about them. And my hope is that you just really come to believe that, if you've overcome, you can overcome a setback like a job loss or a health issue or a divorce or financial problems or the loss of a loved one. It can happen. You can do it. And by the way, talking about loss, I will say that during our break, I also lost my dog of almost 14 years, Sammy. She was a golden doodle and just absolute buddy. And that was very difficult. And I wrote about it. And maybe we'll talk about that at some point. Those of you that have dogs or pets, how important they can be in your life. And that was a tough one. So, and that wasn't all that long ago. That was just about a month and a half ago. So, I had some good times, as I mentioned earlier. That was certainly one that was not so good in a big way. So we all have setbacks, and yet the comebacks are possible, and that's what I want to focus on here in these next episodes, is how to have a comeback. And again, I know this stuff. This is my area of expertise, so I have a lot of great information for you that I can share with you that I think can be very, very helpful to you. But let's just begin with this initial reality. Before you can get to the comeback, you do need to understand the setback. And then what you can learn from it and how you can pivot into the comeback, and that's very crucial. That whole aspect of how you go from setback to comeback is a whole episode in and of itself, and we will get to it. But let's just for a moment pause here and just say, okay, before we can talk about comebacks, and we will, And we will in depth, and we'll see how far we go, because I can get into individual comebacks beyond just the principles into things like relationships and health and finances and spiritual things. So there's a lot of material there, and we'll see just how far we go, and maybe we'll take some breaks and intersperse some other things in between. But we have to begin with setbacks. What are the reasons for a setback? Why do we have a setback? It's important to pause and think about this. Everyone wants to run into the comeback. I get it. I understand it. I have worked with many, many, many people about it. But you've got to begin with, why did it happen in the first place? So let me give you some reasons. The first one is we experience unexpected circumstances. Things happen we never expected to happen. You may remember what happened in Haiti, for instance, and the devastating earthquake that they had a number of years ago. Now, the people of Haiti have had all kinds of problems and challenges throughout the years. They have. My wife was there. She did a mission trip there and did some medical things and some dental stuff that's her area, as well as just helped out in other ways and did some ministry as well. And she saw firsthand. My father-in-law went there as well. So I've heard the stories. They've had enormous political issues and just all kinds of systemic issues in their culture and in their government. But the one thing that they had never encountered for literally 200 years was an earthquake that caused significant damage. And then out of nowhere, in the most populated area of their country, the capital, they have this terrible earthquake. Just, wow. You don't expect it to happen. If you want to just move up to current times, the pandemic. I was in Hawaii in February 2.5 years ago or so. And while we were there was just these rumblings of something that we'd heard about in because we actually left, I think, in January. It was just starting to be talked about. And we were just having a great, great time. And who would believe that the next month in March, it would be declared and everything would be shut down. And we would go through 2+ years of this just unbelievable setback that has taken place. And we need a comeback. Now, some of you remember the Great Recession, 2008. A lot of smart people with graduate degrees in finance, and their job is to monitor the economy, and they didn't see it coming. And we went into this terrible Great Recession. And that wasn't, not even 15 years ago. And how the pandemic. So there are unexpected circumstances happen, and they can come into your life in terms of your personal life. We can acknowledge them, but we don't have to dwell on them. But sometimes we have a hard time saying, I've had a setback, or I'm in the middle of a setback. You don't have to take a step back because you've had a setback. You can take your setback and turn it into a comeback. But it's important to acknowledge the setback and be honest with yourself about, the situation that you find yourself in. So setback is where it starts, the acknowledgement on, and now again, it may be that the Great Recession, the pandemic, these sorts of things that were large-scale setbacks ended up having a direct impact on you so that you had a setback. But again, it may not have anything to do with that at all. I'll never forget, I was meeting with a guy one time, and he said, listen, I got to talk to you. I said, what's going on? He says, I came home from a business trip and my wife was gone. And I said, what do you mean gone? And he said, I mean, like her stuff is gone, like it's out of the closet. I called her, there's no answer. And I said, did you see this coming? And he said, no. He thought everything was fine. And he comes home from a business trip and literally his wife had left him. Life has a way of throwing curveballs. You go to the doctor and you may be having a problem, little thing, and they find out that the little thing is in fact something a lot bigger than little. While we were on a break, I did a celebration of life service for someone who had passed away, just 52 years old. Great guy, real innovator, real entrepreneur, great husband and father. Went to the doctor about one thing, and they ended up discovering something far, far, far more serious. Unexpected circumstances. Things can happen to you. You can have something with your job where they make changes. They decide to trim down the staff, and you end up getting laid off. There's all kinds of things that can happen in our lives that we, just never, saw coming. And even if circumstances are beyond your control for the setback, here's the great news. You can still control your comeback. Yeah, you can control how you launch yourself out of the setback and into the comeback. And that's really important to understand at the beginning of this entire time we're going to devote to talking about setbacks. It's crucial to understand that, yes, you have to acknowledge the setback. You don't have to accept it. You can look forward to the comeback. You don't have to allow unexpected circumstances, things that are beyond your control, to dictate what your future is going to be. You decide what your life is going to be like, the happiness that you're going to have, and the comeback that will happen in your life. What's another reason for a setback? Bad decisions. Bad decisions. I mean, it's a reality. The book of wisdom in the Bible is the book of Proverbs, and Proverbs 14:8 says, wise people have enough sense to find their way, but stupid fools get lost. Fools don't care if they're wrong, but God is pleased when we do right. That goes into verse 9 as well. Fools don't care if they're wrong, but God's pleased when people do what is right. So, we need wisdom to understand life's challenges, and wisdom is knowledge applied. Wisdom is when we apply our knowledge to life. We can make decisions that end up being wrong. We've all done it. I mean, this isn't like some sort of judgment time now. I mean, anybody who's honest at all about their life would have to say, yeah, I've made some bad decisions. I've certainly made some bad decisions. And by the way, I would say that a big part of the reason for my success is good decisions. I've made some really, really good decisions, but I've made some bad decisions. And those bad decisions have caused setbacks in my life. I mean, that's just a reality. So we can't go around pretending our foolish decision didn't cause a setback. It's disappointing, it's humbling, but it shouldn't keep us from owning the reason for our setback. Sometimes you just don't take care of yourself physically, and then you end up at the doctor. Now, again, sometimes, you're perfectly healthy, and that goes back to the first one, unexpected. So again, unexpected circumstances, yes, but sometimes it's the logical progression of not taking care of the body that God's given you. This is what's concerning me about kind of what's happening today, where we're, in this, movement to try to not make people feel bad about the way they look or their health in a country that is the vast majority of people are overweight or obese. So it's understandable how there would be a movement then to do that. But part of the problem with this is what this really is going to end up meaning. We already know that if we cut down the overweight and obesity, percentage in our population, the healthcare costs it would just plummet. It would just be so much better for all of us, and the cost of healthcare would go down. That's on a macro level, but on a micro level, I mean, you're going to reap what you sow, and if you don't take care of yourself, then you're gonna have that and that setback, and you'll have to own that. You'll have to own that for yourself, and it's important to be able to do that. Now, again, it's not every setback is because of that, but it certainly can happen. Here's another on the bad decisions would be financially making bad decisions. Bad financial decisions, buying a house that's beyond what you can afford, using credit cards to live beyond your means and then pile up all kind of debt, or even using a home equity line thinking it's sort of like free spending, and what you're really doing is spending your way into some serious problems. This income's one thing, wealth is another, and those are very different, and those are very different things. So, you spend you have all this equity, or let's hope maybe, in your home, and then you go and spend it, and what do you end up with? And again, we can go down the list in terms of relationships, bad decisions, being with the wrong person that's not for you. Your friends tried to tell you, your parents tried to tell you, your siblings tried to tell you, you didn't listen. Maybe you went and got married and you didn't have pre-marriage counseling. I mean, how crazy is it to enter into a lifetime commitment like marriage and have no pre-marriage preparation? You go to college for 4 years to get a degree to do a job. You want to be a plumber or electrician. You have to go through training. They have to years of an apprentice before they let you, do this stuff. And yet you're going to be married, but you don't have any preparation. The couples that I marry, they have to go through 24 different exercises. They have to listen to things that I have written or spoken on marriage. There's reading that has to be done. I mean, you got to do these things if you're going to prepare yourself for a successful marriage. So bad decisions can impact many of these major setbacks that we have in life, like financial or health or relationships. Now, again, some, like loss, just can come out of nowhere and they just hit us and we never saw it coming. And that's why I started with unexpected. So there are things that, and only you can honestly look at yourself and say, was this unexpected, or was it because of decisions that I made that brought this about? You'll have to examine that for yourself. You'll have to look at it for yourself and decide if that's the case or not. And only you can do that. But when you look at some of these key areas of setbacks in our lives, certainly decisions and bad decisions can impact in many, many, many ways. Well, there's more to talk about under the reasons, let alone the lessons, but I spent a lot of time today just catching up on things from our break. So we're going to come back next week and we're going to continue to talk about more reasons for a setback as we move into trying to understand lessons we can learn from those setbacks as well. But it's been great to be back with you with the Point of Impact podcast. I'm so glad that you're listening today. And by all means, share this podcast. Give us great ratings and reviews. We welcome all of that. And again, just welcome those who are listening. There's so many different ways now that this podcast is being consumed. And I hope that however you're listening, that this is helping you. And I'm really looking forward to this focus on setbacks and comebacks. I really believe I've got some information that can really help you. So stay tuned as we continue this in the weeks to come.
You've been listening to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to you joining us for our next episode.